of World War II naval aviation. As we celebrate the 100th anniversary of naval aviation, this next performance is going to take us back to when the tides of World War II turned in the favor of the United States of America. We're going to have two authentic, vintage World War II aircraft taking to the air here momentarily. About 5 minutes from now, we will begin the next of our air show performances here this afternoon for the 2011 Great Park Air Show. Past, you will see the very compact design of the nimble A6M3 Japanese Zero fighter. In its combat configuration, the airplane had a range of a little over 350 miles. However, the pilots of the Imperial Japanese Navy were so adept at being able to lean out the mixture control of the aircraft that on some cross-country or over-water flights, they were capable of getting as much as 1,000 miles out of a flight just by maintaining the energy of the engine and the fuel flow. This enabled them to appear in places in the south. From your air show left, the A6M30 makes another strafing run over the airfield. Pulling up and away to get set up for the next of its attack runs, it is now going to meet an adversary that it is not expected, and that is the venerable Grumman F6F Hellcat. This particular aircraft had come from the drawing boards as early as 1941. However, with the turning tide, has turned around and has the Grumman F6F fighter fixed in his gun sights. However, watch as our Grumman pilot nimbly evades the Japanese Zero, and our Zero pilot, aware that he is now facing a brand new aircraft, unable to keep up with the airplane. The Grumman Hellcat, weighing in at more than 16,000 pounds with almost twice the horsepower of the Japanese Zero, was armed with 6 50 caliber machine guns, 3 in each wing. It was a carrier-borne fighter. Just outboard of the landing gear attachment on the wing of the aircraft, the wings would fold back. This enabled almost twice the number of the Hellcat to be stored above and below the decks of the U.S. aircraft carriers that were in the fleet at that particular time. Coming in from your air show right, the Zero still on the tail of the Hellcat, but our Hellcat pilot able to stay out in front of and safely away from the enemy fighter. The Zero now diving down to build up airspeed to keep up with this aircraft that in front of him has more than twice the horsepower capable of the Zero fighter. Unable to completely catch up with him, our Hellcat pilot, through the excellent maneuverability of this, there was armor plating protecting the engine. The fuel tanks were self-sealing. If they took a bullet, the tank would seal behind the bullet to allow the fuel from escaping from the tank of the aircraft. The early Grumman fighters at the beginning of the Second World War, Coming in from the right now, our Hellcat pilot, able to outmaneuver the Zero, has turned around and is now on the tail of the enemy aircraft as they make a pass over the airfield one more time. Smoke starting to trail from the Zero as the 6 50 caliber machine guns are finding their home in the wings and in the fuselage of the enemy airplane. The Zero pitching up and away, climbing for altitude, trying to evade the F6F, but to no avail. Smoke still trailing. Our Navy fighter, as they come back in from air show left, ladies and gentlemen, once again, the Japanese Zero, still smoking now, continuing to smoke. And our Grumman F6F Hellcat driver here today, the victor in the aerial combat that saw the tides turn in the favor of the United States Navy during the Second World War. As our pilots go by, I want you to take this opportunity to look around you. And if we have any World War II veterans who are out here with us today watching the air show, would you please raise your hand and let everyone who are flying here for you today in the Japanese Zero and the Grumman Hellcat represent members of the Southern California wing of the Commemorative Air Force based at Camarillo Airport. The Commemorative Air Force, an organization that had its origins in the early 1950s, was put together initially beginning with one Curtiss P-40 Warhawk, and through the years has amassed a collection collection of thousands of aircraft and chapters throughout not only the United States but around the world that are dedicated to the restoration and the preservation of the aircraft that served the United States of America during the Second. Today, Jason Soames. Flying behind him in the Grumman F6F Hellcat, at the controls, Ken Gotchel. Our two pilots are going to rejoin to your air show ride, and they will be coming back in for a photo pass. I have to tell you that these are two of the only pilots who will not be coming back and landing here this afternoon. We would very much like for you to have the opportunity to meet with and talk with these two demonstration pilots. However, due to the fact that they are based at the Camarillo Airport, and as is pretty much common this time of year, the fog is starting to roll in, so we are going to allow these two gentlemen to make their way back to their home base so that they can land safely and before the marine layer or the fog moves in. We want all of our pilots to be able to land safely and recover safely, and we're going to these two gentlemen back to their home base in Camarillo. And as they are turning around for their photo pass, taxiing out right now the next of our air show demonstrations. In this particular case, we are going to take you back to the early days of barnstorming. But before we do that, we have a couple more passes for you to enjoy, courtesy of the two members of the Camarillo wing of the Commemorative Air Force. And incidentally, if you're interested in World War II aircraft and you want the opportunity to take a ride in an airplane, Camarillo has, in fact, 3 airplanes available for rides, and they are all based at the Camarillo Airport. They are the PT-19, the Fairchild PT-19, which is a training aircraft from the Second World War, a primary training airplane. From your left, Ken Gotchel comes in the beautiful Grumman Hellcat with the victory roll. Ladies and gentlemen, from Camarillo, California, Mr. Ken Gotchel. Ladies and gentlemen, from your air show left, have your cameras ready because the first of 2 passes before our 2 demonstration pilots begin their homeward flights. This will give you an opportunity to see the comparative size between the aircraft. The Zero, a much smaller airplane, half the weight, half the horsepower. The Hellcat, much larger, but both of these airplanes, very, very formidable opponents during the Second World War. Japanese Zero maintained as one of the top Imperial Japanese Navy aircraft of the war. From your air show left, the F6F, the A6M3, our 2 World War II veterans. And our 2 pilots are heading back to their home base in Camarillo, but right now we're going to take you back to the early days of barnstorming. When we used to call pilots things that we just don't